Right, so it's welcome to our viewers on YouTube this evening as we are broadcasting. I'm broadcasting here from Harrismith in the Eastern Free State, just waiting for Michael to join me. And today's topic is going to be on fit over 50, and that should be absolutely fascinating. So as I say, just waiting for Michael to join me in the room here, and we'll be carrying on with the topic this evening, fit over 50, and particularly meaningful in my case, because I am part of that exclusive club that is over 50. So if you're out there watching at the moment on YouTube, you will see that we have got a little subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the recording that you are watching live. Please, if you would like to subscribe, please do so and click on the button and subscribe to our channel. A lot of interesting broadcasts and videos coming up in the not too distant future. The edited recording of this particular episode of our TIMCA Talks to Michael Ellefsen will be available sometime next week on the channel, when you'll be able to see the entire discussion as well as other snippets that Michael will be preparing for us. So looking forward to having Michael with us shortly. I know he had an appointment and that he did have, was finishing at 5, so he may be slightly delayed. Haven't heard from him. But in the meantime, I think it's a good opportunity to tell you all about what is happening here in Harrismith. Very exciting, what's been happening over the last few days here in Harrismith. Arrived here on Monday afternoon, and we have been setting up for math clubs to start in the Harrismith area in Intibazwe specifically. And these we are expecting to commence within the not too distant future. And we will be discussing these with the facilitators once again tomorrow morning to get a date when they are going to start. And we are expecting to have a number of the local residents, adults who will be attending training and attending math clubs over the next period of time to get them ready for the big implementation next year. So that is going to be something that we are specifically really looking forward to, spending quite a bit of time here in this beautiful Eastern Free State town. And you can't see it behind me at the moment, but in the distance is the famous Platberg, which is a real feature of the landscape here in Harrismith. And we're doing a lot of work in an area called Intibazwe, or others may know it as 42nd Hill, and the TIMCA Education Center, as some of you might have seen. We have already got 2 containers there, and those will be converted over the next number of months into an education center for the community in Intibazwe, at a site just off the main Kilane Street in Intibazwe. That's K-I-L-A-N-E, Kilane Street. Those of you that want to know or want to look up where that is by tomorrow, that should be on Google Maps. I'm broadcasting to you live from the Shady Pines Guest House in the heart of Harrismith, the town itself. And just to give you some background there, I have been discussing and talking to the proprietor here, who's been very generous in providing us with accommodation, and we have really enjoyed our time here, and we'll be staying here in the future as well as we look to do more work in the Harrismith community. And still waiting for Michael to join us, and we'll continue to explain a bit more about what the work is that we are doing in the Harrismith community, and specifically in Intibazwe, which is just outside, just on the outskirts of the town of Harrismith itself. The area here, probably around 50,000 people, we believe, in the settlements of Harrismith, Intibazwe, and Chiame. And Michael is just joining us, and I'm going to admit him into the conversation, and we'll start with the topic very shortly. Let's Michael appearing very shortly, hopefully. And there he is. Hello, Michael. Just connecting to audio.
Hey, James.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Fine, thanks. Sorry, I had a little bit of a technical
No
hiccup.
problem at all. I've been telling, I think the whoever we have listening on YouTube, I've been giving them a bit of an update about what we're doing here in Harry Smith. So that's been good, and we'll carry on with that. So I've been entertaining myself, I think, more than anything else. But that's absolutely no
Well,
problem. It's good to see you again. Yeah.
yeah, it's good to see you again. A good story never goes unheard and
No.
unappreciated.
Yeah, we hope so, definitely. So it's good. Yes, I'm here. I thought I'd try and put a nice sort of green background with an open doorway here. It's getting a bit darker here. I know in Cape Town now it would still be quite light, but in Harrismith, more to the east, it's already starting to get a bit darker. But anyway, without further ado, yeah, so tonight we're talking about fit after 50 or over 50, sorry, fit over 50. And it's a fascinating topic in just looking at some of the information that you sent through. I'm really looking forward to this evening, very relevant for me, being sort of in my 30s or maybe early 40s, maybe not, maybe I'm lying, but sort of heading in that direction. Yeah, being in my 50s, very relevant for me. So yeah, without further ado, maybe give us a bit of an introduction. I think those of you that will watch the first video will know that Michael is a biokineticist in private practice in Johannesburg, and it's really great to be chatting to you this evening. So yes, without further ado, fit over 50, and what happens to you after you get to 50, Michael, that it's so important to understand what you need to do to keep fit?
Well, there's a whole bunch of different things that go on in life after the age of 50. And you might think about the body changing, but you might also think about the mind and the psyche going through a whole bunch of things. So when you get to age 50, you've got a couple of things to look forward to. For one, you've got the obvious sort of lifestyle changes. People, when they get to 50, the amount of money they're earning is sort of at its peak. You're in that stage of from 50 to 60 where you're finalizing that sort of pension and getting all that done. You've also got people, young kids moving out of the house, which puts a bit of stress on you. And then you've also got the idea of retirement in 10 years' time or a bit more than that coming in. And that it's really important to actually sort of prepare for all those things because they can have a major impact on your long-term health. In terms of the body, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things that start going on. Ladies, they get menopause, but for men, they also go through something similar. You get a massive hormonal fluctuation. It's called andropause.
Okay.
And that's the hormone changes that happen in guys.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big things is you're going to see your testosterone levels drop down. And testosterone is the major anabolic steroid. That's what goes into making muscles. So from the age of 50, you're looking at your muscles start to alter. They start to shrink. And there's a couple other changes, which is important. And now it's not all bad stuff. It's there's positives to it because as long as you know that these changes are happening, you can have some control over these things and you can make a big difference. And the type of difference that you're making from age 50 to 60 in terms of your physical well-being, that's a long-term change that's going to last you for the rest of your life, And it really is vitally important to make those changes, to look after your body, to look after your mind, to stop yourself from being in the position where either you become prematurely disabled and you can't go about being as physical as you want, or your lifestyle takes a huge dip by the time you get to 65 and you start to get old age. You might develop frailty or something. And then on the other hand, a lot of people, they develop a severe debilitating condition somewhere after age 55. And if you get hit by something that's catastrophic, like a heart attack or a stroke, or maybe just a breakdown or something like that, it can have an impact on your life, which changes your quality of life for the next 40, 50 years. So, yeah, I say that from 50, there's really a lot to think about. And
So
we should go.
how do you prepare yourself for that then? I mean, what can you do as you sort of approaching 50? I mean, presumably these changes don't just start at 50. Obviously, I mean, they maybe happen building up to 50, but what can you do to prepare yourself for these changes?
Yeah, so standard advice is you should be doing a couple of things to look after yourself, the self-maintenance. You need to be doing strength training. That's resistance training with weights or some sort of resistance training exercise. You can use bands, you can use elastics, you can use weights, you can use body weight. You need to have some sort of self-maintenance program that looks after your muscles and for certain people, the bones. You need to be doing that sort of thing twice a week at least. Some people prefer to do a daily sort of activity where you're doing maybe push-ups or you're doing dips or something like that, but you should be doing at least twice a week, because twice a week is the amount of exercise you require to maintain your muscle mass. You'll see that certain people, if you take a look at, for example, the forearm has got a certain shape to it. It's pretty straight on the one side, and it's got a bit of a curve to it on the other side. As a person ages, the forearm muscles shrink, and then you end up with a forearm that looks a bit blocky. Yeah, that's a nice forearm there.
Okay. Okay, so that was okay. All right, yeah.
But you'll see commonly, if you watch people who are sort of a bit older, they've got a forearm that's quite straight on both sides, and it looks more like a rectangle. And that's a sign that some of your type 2 muscle fibers have shrunken. And the type 2 muscle fibers are the ones that are fast and quick. They do jumping, they do moving quickly. And because people slow down as they age, often you lose those muscle fibers, then you lose the shape. You can see the same thing happens in the calves. People develop these very skinny, stick-like calves. So weight training or resistance training twice a week. Then you're looking at also doing some cardio exercise, and you're looking at the basic guidelines, 150 minutes a week. But practically, you're looking at incorporating a bit of intensity into your lifestyle. A time where you can get a little bit out of breath, a time where you can sweat a little bit. That type of exercise is important. If you are in the situation where you've got any weird symptoms, you need to go to the doctor and check it up. So if you've got chest pain or dizziness or anything like that, you might want to go to the doctor and then get it checked up before you start doing just high intensity exercise, which is generally safe for most people, except for people with heart disease. So if you have heart disease and you don't know it, it's a good idea to go check up with the doctor beforehand. And then
Sorry, I mean, just in terms of the exercise you're talking about, and maybe we'll get to a bit later, but you're talking about, obviously well, not obviously, but, when you hit 50 and you now decide, okay, I really need to get fit, you don't go out and try and run 5 kilometers when you have been doing nothing, obviously. That sort of thing. Don't sort of make this decision today, I'm going to get fit.
So it should be a lifestyle change, and then to make a lifestyle change, a powerful lifestyle change, it's powered by goals. So you've got goals that are powering that lifestyle change. It's also as simple as possible. I tell people to do a little tiny bit. So people for the last 40 years have been doing the run-walk method, and that's just where you jog a little bit, you walk a bit quickly. It doesn't matter if you jog or run. The important thing is that you get that bit of intensity, so you can say to yourself, well, I'm working at about 70%. If you can get that 50 to 70%, that's enough to improve your fitness. And if you do that at least 3 times in the course of the week, your fitness level is going to increase. And that's going to have a major impact on your risk of disease, etc. One of the biggest things that is going to make a difference for is your mood on the day. As soon as you've gone for a run, people feel much, much better. You get a rush of endorphins. You also get a rush of adrenaline. I say to people that a good workout is better than coffee. Adrenaline works much better than caffeine. And an important thing that you should think about is start slow and then build it up from there. 1 minute a day is fine. I think I said in the last talk, you might be worrying about running, but you haven't opened the door yet. So open the door and then go from there. If you want a long-term consistent behavior change, I think the evidence is quite clear that you must do something you really enjoy. You can do it with a group of friends, and to put all of that together, I tell people often to do a hobby. So take up something new, take your wife dancing, or find something that you can go do with the guys. As soon as you get into a hobby, then there's a social group attached to most hobbies. And a big problem with people after the age of 50 is they actually lose a lot of friends. And part of the reason for that is that people in the 30 to 40 age bracket, they're networking a lot and they're building up a network base. They make a lot of friends. Okay, same as people 20 to 30, they're very social. They make a lot of friends. But on average, when people get to age 50, their friend base stabilizes. They've got the same friends. They keep those friends for a number of years. And then if they keep those friends for long enough, eventually they start running out of friends because those friends are getting sick and they're dying eventually or moving away, and the children move away as well. So you might have to get into the habit of adopting a new hobby every once in a while, because that comes with a social group. And all of a sudden you've got friends, and friends are actually very important for your health. I talked to a guy who was a jiu-jitsu athlete today, and he told me that he made his entire social group just came from him joining a local gym and taking up jiu-jitsu, because as soon as he went there, he had 10 other people who were all jiu-jitsu people, and birds of a feather flocked together. Automatically, he had a million friends.
That's great. So I mean, there are a number of activities that one can get involved with, in clubs that one can join, whether that's cycling, running, bowls, just a sport that is that say running, jogging, whatever it might be. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that one can do. Would you advise, say, I'm talking like high impact sports, though you perhaps wouldn't advise for somebody over 50?
Yeah, so one of the things that's sort of interesting with over 50-year-olds is the tissues in the body are changing. So you notice differences in the muscles, the bones, and then also the tendons. So tendons specifically, those are the little things that you can see. There's some tendons there on my forearm. The tendons attach your muscles onto the bones, but they actually, a large part of that is water, because tendons are very squishy and they're supposed to be very elastic. People over the age of 50, the tendons dry out. They start to get a bit dehydrated. They've got less water than they used to. And that's why people over age 50, they tend to injure themselves in the tendons quite a lot. So high impact might be not the thing to start with, but you can get into it more and more and more as you train. And there's also a bunch of exercises you can do to make sure your tendons are quite healthy and strong. And if you do that sort of exercise, especially the resistance stuff, it makes your tendons healthier, and then you can do more impact. So there's no reason why you can't have a runner who's 95 years old. And I've known a couple of people who run and they're 95. And I've known people who are 100 and they still drive their cars. And I've known people who are 70 and they're still good to go. Then again, I know people who are 50, 70, 80, 90, 100, and they can hardly do anything.
Yes.
Think of longevity in terms of life, but also in terms of your quality life. How long do you want to live well?
And that, I mean, obviously there's so many factors that come into it. I mean, the psychological side of it you were talking a bit about earlier. What I wanted to ask you about really was around sort of weight and the effect that has on you, because that there must be some quite a big impact that if you're overweight or even underweight, whatever that might be, that has an impact in terms of the type of exercise you should be doing or starting with and building into. Give us some sort of idea around that, because I think that's quite fascinating.
Yeah, so on average, people are getting overweight, right? It's very easy to put on weight these days. And in South Africa, we start to put on weight from around the age of 25. You should know that weight happens in different places. So weight can happen around the body, right? And then weight can happen around the belly. Everyone's been saying that after lockdown, they have to flatten the curve now. But yeah, those are two different types of obesity. It becomes obesity when we've got a lot of extra weight. And the idea is we're putting on weight after the age of about 25. And if you look at women, 1/3 of women are actually usually in the overweight category or overweight obese category from age 30. That's in South Africa. So it's quite a high number, and men is the same sort of thing. And you may be, it's similar. And you may be in the position where you've got skinny arms and skinny legs. You might have muscle, etc., but you've got a belly. And the reason that a belly is always measured in at workplaces, etc., is because a belly predicts the risk of a lot of disease, and it gives you a good reflection of lifestyle. So now, coming to weight loss, you've got a little bit to think about. When you're trying to lose weight, you've got to consider, there's two big factors that are usually considered. There's a couple other things that are important, but there's diet and there's exercise. I personally think that diet's the most important thing when it comes to losing fat. Exercise is also very important. But just to give you an idea of the role that things play, if you take a person, a man, for example, and he's about 27 years old, and that person, you take that person running, and you run him at about 7 out of 10 intensity, so he's working quite hard. If that person were to run for around, usually about 70 kilometers, that's a long distance. He's going to have burnt enough energy to lose 1 kilogram of fat, because the body's remarkably efficient. When you exercise, it's meant to be that way, because otherwise we burn ourselves to a crisp and then we die out. But so when you're exercising, either you've got to actually exercise a lot. So I'm talking about 5 kilometers or something a day. You do that for a week or two, and then you build up that 70 kilometers, and then you can lose a kilogram of fat. Yeah. The easier way to go about doing it is with subtle changes throughout the day, little things like, for example, you can add some extra activity by stand up every time someone gives you a phone call. That's the easy thing you can do. It'll break up your activity. It takes more calories to stand up and walk around than it does to sit down. That's an easy way of adding a little bit of activity in. Make sure you go get lots of tea or something. You can have coffee throughout the day. Put the coffee at the other side of the house. That way you have to get up and go. Don't use a couple different cups. That way you have to take the cup to the kitchen. All those little things add up and make a difference. You can tip the scale by doing a formal exercise routine. But diet and food is also vitally important. And the general guidelines that people give are beware of very refined foods and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of dietitians and nutritionists who can help you specifically with your case to go through that sort of thing. But take a good piece of advice and beware of the very, very refined foods, and especially junk foods and sweets. It makes a huge difference. Sometimes people can make one little change to their diet, and that's the change that tips the scale, and then all of a sudden they're losing half a kilogram a week. And that's equivalent to then going for a 40 Ks worth of run that week.
Right. So it's not as simple, obviously, as having it. Asking the question, is it as simple as having kilojoule intake against kilojoules that you've burnt, or there must be more to it than that?
Yeah, you can look at it like that. These days, people talk a lot about sugar and fats and that sort of thing. If we say it's sort of basically, if you look at junk food's got a lot of bad quality fats in it. It's got a lot of bad quality sugars in it, that sort of thing. And those are those junky refined foods, the ones that often tip those scales out. So yes, those ones will probably make you add more weight. Certain people specifically might get more out of that. And but in general, sometimes it's not as easy as just calories in and calories out. Sometimes there's a little bit more to it. But often it's the case where a small change will make that huge difference.
And should you be, I mean, if you are doing your exercise but you tend to be, maybe you're losing weight or you're not toning in the areas that you were hoping you would be toning in, is that a cause for concern, or are we doing something wrong if we're doing that?
So usually with body fat, you're going to lose body fat all around the whole body. It depends on the person. Ladies tend to lose more around the back sometimes, and then the side, and then you might lose around the belly. The belly fat is the hardest thing to lose. It's the one that takes a long time to grow, and sometimes it can come quick, but it's the one that also usually goes last, because that's a predictor of your sort of lifestyle as a whole. If you're exercising a bit, you can lose a little bit more around the belly, but something as simple as doing a lot of sit-ups won't necessarily make you lose your belly, right? That's more of a reflection of the entire sort of lifestyle. So if you're not for muscles, it's a bit easier. I mean, if you want to grow your bicep, then just train your bicep. You can do bicep curls, and the most important thing is how much weight you're using. So if we're talking about growing muscle, the first thing you have to understand is that 1 kilogram is a lot. People don't usually think like that. When you think about 1 kilogram, you
Lost you.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
When you're thinking about 1 kilogram, you might think about a steak. In South Africa, we've got Texan steaks, which I know that they don't call them that overseas. But a Texan steak is a very big steak. It's a 1 kilogram steak, which is quite a large thing. Yeah, but if you add on 1 kilogram worth of muscle, that's equivalent to taking a huge steak and wrapping it around your arm, right? It's a lot. And for a man who's aged 55, you can put on around 1.5 kilograms worth of muscle. That will take you around 10 weeks worth of weight training, of 2 to 3 times per week. So you can actually put on a ton worth of, a lot of muscle. And it's as simple as looking for the muscles that you're working. Make sure that you have enough protein that you eat after you exercise, and you can have a little bit before if you want, but not as important as after. And then make sure that you're using the right intensity. The right intensity for weight, for growing muscle, is to do about 12 repetitions of that exercise until you're tired. And you know when you're tired, because at the end of the exercise, it's a bit shaky and your arms don't want to move anymore. And if you can see that that's happening, then that means you're fatigued. That's enough.
Okay. In terms of, so in talking about the muscles, the bones are also something that is quite important to look after as you're getting to an advanced age. You just perhaps elaborate a bit on that. You mean bone density, people breaking their hips, and these types of things happen quite often.
Yeah, so that's the thing that tends to happen a bit later in life, not so much in the 50 sort of age bracket. That happens later. So if you've got so bones, they're naturally quite hard. They develop hardness usually mostly until about age 30. From age 30, the bones start to soften, and we end up with these little cells called osteoclasts, and they start to reabsorb the bone and sort of almost break it down. And those start working much more than the bones that are building, the cells that are building up the bones from age 30, and you're slowly softening the bones a bit. The most important type of exercise they do for bones is actually either impact, which a lot of people can't do, or resistance training with quite heavy weights. And the way to think about it is that they grow very slowly. Each year, you can sometimes put on 1% worth of hardness, or you can sometimes lose 1% of hardness. And that's how people get osteoporosis. They lose 0.5% or 1% every year. And that means you can lose, you can slowly build up that softness. And then all of a sudden you go to get a bone scan and the doctor tells you have osteoporosis. The important thing that you should know is that the best treatment for it is weight training. And I'm talking about weight training with weights. Little tiny exercises with body weight often aren't enough. And then you should be doing that exercise probably 2 or 3 times a week, at least 2 times a week. And then occasionally you'll see these really good results. There was a nice big study that was run in Australia about 2 years ago, and it was called the Lift More trial. They took a whole bunch of people and they gave them weight training with barbell squats, deadlifts, it's another barbell technique, military press, which is where you push the weight up above you, and they did a little bit of skipping. And those people, they actually improved their bone mineral density. They got an extra %. And what it seems like you can do is, if you train for a couple of years, I mean, you can add those % on. It seems that way, but the research is still coming in. Just to say something that's very relevant for 50-year-olds is also balance. And I know that sounds a bit funny, but around age 55, people start losing their ability to balance. And the science now knows why this happens. It's because the body goes through a process called motor reorganization. You've got little nerves that feed each of your muscles and tell them what to do. And when you get to around from somewhere from 55 to 65, the little ends of the nerves that attach onto the muscle break off. And they actually start to, and they reattach, but they reattach to the wrong places. So your body sort of forgets how to use its muscles. And so that's why you'll see a person who's getting older, they don't move very fluidly, right? They move very rigidly and stiff. And the only way to get a really good impact on your balance, which you might start losing from age 55, is you should do balance exercise. So you should be trying to stand on one leg.
Okay.
You should be moving from one leg to another leg. You should be doing a bit of balance exercises, sort of. I do balance exercise myself every day. I do 1 minute, standing on one leg and another leg. If you tie your shoes, you can try that. If you got bad balance, then you might have to see someone, because if you get to age 60 and you got bad balance, you don't want to fall and then hurt your hip or something, and then that causes more problems.
Yeah. So that's all a bit of feedback. I think, maybe I can ask you to mute your mic while I'm asking a question, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, I was getting a bit of feedback. So the things that you're talking about in terms of exercise, in terms of making sure you're walking enough. I mean, a lot of people nowadays, you got all these smart watches and smartphones telling you how many steps you've taken every day. All those things are people looking at that balance, doing these things, but making sure that you're continuing to keep yourself going. So not staying in static positions for too long, getting up every hour or setting an alarm or something like that. What are the techniques that you would suggest from that point of view?
Yeah, so when okay, well, like a basic thing, you can use Fitbits and you can use fitness trackers. They do work. On average, I mean, when you give people these devices, they work. People's physical activity does increase. So I won't tell you to go buy the biggest, fanciest fitness tracker, but even something like an app you get on your phone that counts steps, if you're using that, it works. And people on average, they increase their physical activity levels when they get these things. So if I need to get my wife to do more exercise, then if she's got a fitness tracker, then that works really, really well. So think about social leadership. If you want to get your family to exercise, and everyone will start copying you. You can also spend time with people who are exercisers. That's a wonderful way to get exercising, because all of a sudden, whenever anyone is with other people, they start to sort of compare themselves a little bit, and you do start to exercise. So that's something you can do. If you're a person who's at the desk a lot, then yeah, you have to think about a couple of these little tricks to get yourself up and move. It's not always easy. You might have to do something like stand up. You can try stand up every hour. I find that doesn't work. What works better is if you just set an alarm on your phone that goes off, just a little beep or something. You can do that every hour or something. What I actually use is I use an interval timer. That's a timer app you can get on your phone, which usually you use with exercise. It runs for a minute and then it beeps at you, tells you to do the next exercise, like a circuit. I just set the thing for an hour, and then it beeps at me all day long, and it tells me it's been an hour. You've had enough sitting. Get up and move. And then I purposefully do a couple of little other things throughout the day. So other than standing up, I do stand up and I walk around when I do a phone call. Every 2 or 3 hours, I make sure that I go outside and walk around. That's quite important. You can also, I make sure that I have a couple of drinks in the course of the day, like tea, not alcohol. and wow, lockdown is hard. And so I make sure I have a couple of drinks in the course of the day, water or whatever it is, and I go out and I do that, and then I make sure that I suspend a little bit of. I believe in quiet times as well. You should have a little bit of time in the day where you focus on being really calm. So I go and I have 1 or 2 of those, and when I do it, I be active. And then I talked about it last time, but it's also take your family for a walk. If you got a dog, you can take your dog for a walk. You can take your wife for a walk. You can do that sort of thing, and that helps quite a bit. Also, there's like what I would do is I would think about a very simple exercise program. Here's an example of one. This is a 1-minute exercise program that will improve your fitness if you do it most days of the week. So I often tell people do some push-ups. I do push-ups off my desk, so I would just be pushing up off my desk, and then I do some plank. A plank or a bridge exercises where you just keep your body straight. You lean on something, like that. You hold that for a minute or something. And then I do squats, which is when you sit down and stand up. What I sometimes tell people is try to get each of those exercises twice a week, because twice a week is what you need to improve your fitness. So on Monday, do push-ups. On Tuesday, do the abs. On Wednesday, you do the squats for your legs. And then Thursday, push-ups. Friday, the abs. And then Saturday, you can do the squats. And so you've exercised the upper, middle, and lower body twice in the week. You did a minute, which is quite strenuous. You can make it harder if by changing the technique to make it harder. And you go for a minute or however long you can. And then you can take Sunday off. So you've done 6 minutes in the week, and you're getting fitter, and you've trained the entire body, and you've done 6 workouts. That's really easy to do. And you can be clever about your workouts. Don't think you've got to spend an hour training. You can spend a minute training. That'll also have a good impact. And you can squeeze it in. Some simple sort of advice is, we talked about circadian rhythm before.
Yes.
People don't have much motivation in the evening. Often is the case, unless you've got a habit. So my experience is, you might have good intentions in the morning, but if you don't follow through on those intentions in the morning or the afternoon, eventually it gets too late, and you don't feel like you can still exercise. So I do push-ups after I have a shower, if that makes anything. You can do push-ups off the bathtub. You can do squats while you brush your teeth. And you can do plank while you get ready, you warm up for your work day. Those are things that I do.
So I'm going to have to ask you to mute your mic again for me. We pretty much coming to the end of our half an hour, Mike. It seems to have gone by so quickly. Yet again, it's been absolutely fascinating. And we might be able to pick up on this again. We can provide, with the edited version of this, an opportunity to put up that schedule that you had that you did show me in the presentation. If there's anything else we want to put that you would suggest we put forward, we can include that, just for a bit of guidance in terms of some of the things that we've said, and put that in the side, and we'll discuss that once we've finished with the recording and just to give some more guidance. But it's been absolutely fascinating, and just want to say thank you once again. We'll be back again with everybody in a month's time. It sounds like a long time, but it actually comes by very quickly. It's really been fascinating for me, being one of the people that are over 50, and I did a lot of running, and that's been on the back burner a bit for the last few months. But certainly exercise absolutely critical, and looking after yourself very important. So I think over to you for a few last words on this topic, and we can then pick it up again in a month's time.
Yeah. So, like take-home messages, I would say that it's incredibly important to challenge your beliefs about what you believe will happen from age 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, etc. People have got this idea that we have to get old, and people have got this vision associated with that. They think that when you get old, you can't move, you can't do things, you become more socially isolated, you lose the ability to do a lot of these things, to think, whatever. A lot of that's actually incorrect. You have power over a lot of those things. For example, exercise is the leading treatment in dementia. So if you're doing these things, you have a huge say in what your body becomes and does, especially over the course of 30 years or 40 years. If you're 50 and going up to 80 or 90, you've got a big say. So what I would do is ask yourself, what are your perceptions of the aging process? What do you think that a 50-year-old means? What does it mean? What does 60 mean? What does 70 mean? What type of person is that person? And you might have to say to yourself that you're wrong. Okay, or maybe you're incorrect, or maybe there's a different way to see that picture, because you definitely have a big say in who you are and what you become. And I would think about that. it's also a nice little businessy thing to do, because you're your own business. You know, you're running your own life. You're the manager of that situation, so you might want to do it really well. You never know what maybe you're going to have a very profitable 60 to 70 period, you know, or 50 to 60 period. And that being said, just to continue the metaphor, fitness, good health is best investment you can make. Steve Jobs said you can't buy good health. You can make it for yourself, often is the case. And I'm sure some people realize that a great deal of the pension money goes towards medical care for yourself and your family. So if you want to stop something like that and have more say in where that money goes and what your lifestyle will be, start with the basics and get it right from now. You can build up your exercise over the next decade if you'd like, or the next 2 or 3 or 4. I have often said to people that when you're 50, then everyone's getting active, you know, and when you're 60, by the time you're 60, everyone's a bodybuilder. You have to be that way, and you have to have figured out how to do some of these things. Never too late to start. So why not start now? Have fun.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm getting that feedback again. So yeah, and so yeah, just we just say thanks again, and from us, we're gonna end it off now. Some really great final comments from you, and that's some big food for thought for those of us, whatever age we might be, as we're approaching our 50s, in our 50s, or even older than that. And certainly, yes, I mean, not that I'm going to necessarily look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I certainly think that your advice is something that I need to be taking to heart, as it were. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And goodbye to everybody who's watching on YouTube. And until the next time, goodbye from me. And just to let Michael say goodbye on his side, I'm going to mute myself, and then so you can say goodbye, Mike.
Bye, everyone.